Oscar Pistorius is due in court this morning to find out if he'll be granted bail while he awaits sentencing for the murder of his girlfriend, Reeva Steenkamp. We can go live to the courthouse in Pretoria now. Special correspondent Alex Crawford is there for us. And Alex, this is going to be the first time that we've really seen Oscar Pistorius properly for more than a year.
That's right. He has been spotted very briefly out whilst doing community service, whilst he's been under house arrest at his uncle's home in Pretoria. His aunt tweeted a still photograph of him on his birthday on November the 22nd with a whole load of young children. But apart from that, he hasn't been seen much at all, and certainly not in court since he was sent down for 5 years, sentenced to 5 years for culpable homicide. All that been torn up now since the appeal court ruled that that should be set aside and he should be found guilty of the more serious offence of murder. The sentencing will be in the new year. He now faces a minimum of 15 years unless there is extenuating circumstances. But we're hearing that his defence team will use this court appearance to say that they're going to lodge a further appeal, go to the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court. Llewellyn Lewis is here with us. What are the grounds for going to the Constitutional Court, if indeed they do this?
Well, first of all, today's proceedings is more of a storm in a teacup, if you ask me. It shouldn't take long. It's regarding the bail. This is basically to correct the academic lacuna that now exists regarding the debate whether he should be out or not and things like that. But on the assumption that they do lodge an appeal to the Constitutional Court later, I do think it's a bit premature to do it at this stage. They must wait until the sentencing is finalised before they do that. If they do that, obviously they can do it on constitutional grounds, for example. That would be the best way to go about, on the assumption that there was some constitutional infringement by the state in his right to a fair trial.
Such as too much television broadcasting.
For example. But then again, we are back to the judgment by Judge President Malambu that already considered constitutional principles vis-a-vis the right of the accused to have a fair trial and the public's interest and the international media interest in the court case.
And that was the Judge President who took the decision that
Correct.
The whole trial should be broadcast live.
And remember, that matter was never taken on appeal by the defence team. So to now come a year later or 2 years later and then suddenly argue that, first of all, there was a constitutional infringement, or that shouldn't have happened, that will raise some concerns by the state. It's a difficult path for the defence to try and approach the Constitutional Court.
Llewellyn Lewis will be calling on your expertise all the way through the morning. He's due in court in an hour and a half's time.
Thanks, Alex. And you can see Oscar Pistorius in court from around 7:30 this morning. We'll have full coverage on TV and on our mobile apps as well.
Mild, moist air and obviously piling in across the mountains. It just gave such a lot of rain over the Lake District. It won't be that sort of setup now.
But no matter what we're going to get, surely is going to be too much because this ground is absolutely saturated.
Well, that's why there are flood warnings. We've still got, what, 16 severe flood warnings, and the Met Office have yellow weather warnings because sort of you have to be aware that there's more rain in the forecast, and it is saturated ground. There's been a lot of rain recently and a lot of rain through November, where about twice the average was falling over the northwest. So, you know, I'm not surprised they're keeping a closer watch on this. It's a fine balance, but it doesn't look as though it will be a repeat performance, but obviously there will still be some flooding around. And I'm not surprised the next batch of rain, yes, we've got some showers today, but the next heavier area of rain comes in late Wednesday, and that looks persistent, actually. And then once that clears through, it's colder for a while, and then more rain Friday and into the weekend. So it'll keep us busy, that's for sure. But at this stage, I suppose we're taking a little bit of a step back in that it doesn't look as bad. But yes, I think Wednesday night and then through into the weekend, it still looks very mobile, still further fronts coming in.
Okay, some temporary breathers, that's about all we can hope for. Isabel, keep us posted. We'll get a full forecast at 6:30 with you. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get a rundown of what else is happening. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning, Eamon. Thank you. We'll start with the United States, where Republican presidential contender Donald Trump has called for Muslims to be banned from entering America. His comments have sparked some strong criticism, with one Republican rival accusing him of being unhinged. Our US correspondent Greg Milam reports.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Of those who think that Donald Trump has gone too far this time, not many were in this room. In fact, after a rapturous welcome on stage in South Carolina, for anyone who hadn't heard his statement, he decided to read it out.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
It was the Republican frontrunner's response to the terror attack in California last week, which left 14 dead and America on edge, on the day the FBI confirmed the attackers were radicalized. A protester in the crowd got the usual Trump treatment.
That person had a very weak voice. What a weak voice.
But his rivals will be harder to shake off. Jeb Bush called Trump unhinged. Chris Christie said it was a ridiculous position, and Lindsey Graham called it downright dangerous. On the other side, Hillary Clinton tweeted that it was reprehensible, prejudiced and divisive, and would make America less safe.
This is outrageous, coming from someone who wants to assume the highest office in the land. It is reckless and simply un-American. Donald Trump sounds more like a leader of a lynch mob than a great nation like ours.
Trump's campaign has been littered with controversy, accused of insulting Mexicans.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
Mocking a reporter's disability.
You got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
And on those fleeing Syria.
If I win, they're going back. They're going back. I'm telling you. They're going back.
And so far, none of it has damaged his standing in the polls.
Thank you very much.
Stealing the headlines back from a terror attack on US soil might create the biggest challenge yet to his popularity beyond the hardcore support. And America starts voting in just over 50 days' time. Greg Milam, Sky News, Los Angeles.
Well, the NHS has been accused of putting up a wall of silence in cases where medical failures lead to the death or serious harm of a patient. A study by the Health Service Ombudsman found the NHS cleared its staff of blame in almost 3/4 of cases in which mistakes were later independently discovered. The police watchdog has warned that only 3 forces in England and Wales are well prepared to deal with victims of honour-based violence. It's called for urgent improvements in the way crimes like forced marriage and female genital mutilation are investigated and recorded. In Beijing, half the city's cars are being kept off the roads and schools have been closed after China's capital issued its first ever red alert for air pollution. Dense smog, which authorities blame on coal-burning factories and vehicle emissions, is expected to shroud parts of the city until at least Thursday. Mount Etna has burst into life, spewing fire and hot ash high into the sky. It's one of its most dramatic eruptions for the last 20 years. The volcano on the Italian island of Sicily has been largely dormant for the past 2 years. The band, who were on stage at the Bataclan Theatre when it was attacked, have performed once again in Paris. Eagles of Death Metal joined U2 at a gig in the French capital last night. Tom Platz reports.
They were robbed of their stage 3 weeks ago, and we would like to offer them ours tonight. Would you welcome the Eagles of Death Metal?
After terror and gunfire forced them from the stage, they were back in Paris with rock and roll.
Is everybody here having a good time? I said, can I hear you? Is everybody here having a good time?
The Eagles of Death Metal, defiant in front of 16,000 fans, with a message for the terrorists that cut them off just weeks ago. The band's return was a symbolic moment for fans.
It gives a feeling of comfort to everybody. Life continues, you know. Life goes on. Music is something that connects people.
The whole stage was with them, and it was very cool.
90 of the 130 people who died in the Paris attacks were killed at the band's gig at the Bataclan. The city is still in a state of emergency, and outside the venue, not far from the shootings, security was tight. After the performance, the band thanked everyone in the world who continues to prove that love, joy and music will always overcome terror and evil. This won't be the band's last performance in Paris. They've promised to return to play at the Bataclan when it reopens. Now they know the welcome that awaits them. Tom Platt, Sky News.
A project to regenerate a rundown part of Liverpool has won the Turner Prize. Assemble is a collective of 15 architects and designers who help locals on the Toxteth estate transform their neighbourhood. The London-based group will share the £25,000 prize.
The hacking group Anonymous has told Sky News why they want to take Islamic State offline and how they need help doing it. In their first interview since declaring war on IS, down websites which publicise jihadi-controlled social media accounts. But they say security services must do more too. Joe Tidy with this one.
If you're on the internet, you're there because we kind of let you be there.
Behind the menacing masks and monikers of notorious hacking collective Anonymous is a disarmingly ordinary group of people. Here, my interview with a father of three who calls himself Comedy is interrupted by members of his own team for fun.
Oh, man. I'm going to kill these guys.
It contrasts with the deadly serious declaration the group made against IS after the Paris attacks last month.
We are going to launch the biggest ever operation against you. Expect very many cyber attacks.
So far, Anonymous, led by a small group of specialists called GhostSec, claim to have taken down more than 100 Islamic State websites and more than 25,000 social media accounts. And every attack brings its own brand of humour to antagonise the jihadis further. The hackers say their pranks serve a purpose.
That was just a way of saying, you know, got you guys. This is serious business to us, but we keep a sense of humor to keep ourselves sane, because a lot of what we see and a lot of, you can't unsee this stuff.
The small team of around 12 hackers say they work around the clock in shifts, finding potential targets online. With the support of the larger collective, they claim to be able to take down most sites. In order to give us a demonstration of what Anonymous is capable of, they've given us a heads up on their latest takedown. This is a website address they've sent us. They think the website is IS run. We don't know that for sure, but certainly looking at the translations, it appears to be IS sympathetic at least. They've said they're going to take it down any minute now. So it looks like they've been successful. It says here, internal server error. Now, these types of attacks normally only last a matter of hours or days, but such is the network of Anonymous. They're confident they can keep this site down for months. Impressive though it is, it's still unclear how much damage they're actually doing to Islamic State.
Where you have groups like Anonymous, say, naming and shaming and putting up a list of 20,000 Twitter accounts that are allegedly connected with ISIS, and when those accounts also include the BBC, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton,